So far in this unit, we have learned about why different European groups came over to the New World. We have talked about the Spanish conquistadors and the different civilizations and lands that they conquered and claimed for Spain. So today we're going to cover Spanish colonial society. This is going to focus on how the Spanish and the Native Americans interacted once Spain began colonizing the New World. We're going to start off with the encomienda system. So this was established by the Spanish in order to control and subdue the native population during colonization. The encomienda system was based on a tribute system. So, in theory, the Spanish provided protection for the Native Americans and conversion to Christianity, which they both saw as positive things that they were giving the natives. And in exchange, the natives provided either gold or labor. So if they were not able to provide something of value, if they were not able to come up with gold, and many of them were not, they were forced to do labor for the Spanish. So this is exactly what it sounds like. This was basically forced slavery of the native population by the Spanish. So as soon as the Spanish arrived in the New World and began colonizing, they also began enslaving the native population in order to profit off of them. That was the encomienda system. Keep in mind, though the native populations were polytheistic, most of them did not ask to be converted to Christianity. This was not something that they necessarily perceived as positive, and the people they needed protection from were the ones who were enslaving them. So here we can see a graphic of the encomienda system. As many things, it sounds good in theory, right? Protection, conversion, and then the Indians would work to pay off that debt. However, the Spanish settlers did force long labor, obviously did not pay the native workers. They also failed to protect the Indians, and they seized their lands. And for the natives to the New World, they died from disease and harsh living and working conditions. The Spanish were not concerned about the lives of the native population. Encomienda does end in the New World after clergy and priests back in Spain protest the conditions and what the Spanish are doing to the natives. However, that does not mean that the Spanish stopped abusing the natives. That was still happening. Over here we can see the social society that was set up by the Spanish. So labor was on the bottom. We can see that those tended to be people with darker skin. That was how the labor was determined in the Spanish colonial society. Mestizos and mulattoes both refer to children of mixed race. They had a Spanish mother or father, and then a native mother or father. So they are a little bit higher up than those who were full native. Creoles referred to those who were full Spanish or almost full Spanish, but were born in the New World. And then the Peninsulares, who were at the top of society, were full Spanish heritage, also born in Spain. I said that the encomienda system ended after clergy protested. Bartolomé de las Casas was one of those clergy, a religious man back in Spain. He was a historian and a missionary and an author, so he did write about the injustices towards the Indians in the New World. So he did spend much of his life advocating for better treatment of the natives, for the Spanish who were colonizing the New World, to treat the natives in a Christian manner instead of exploiting and abusing them. So a book was published by de las Casas called A Short Account of the Destruction of the Indies, where he talked about all the terrible things that Spain did during the colonization efforts. Here's an excerpt that you can go back and read in the notes, or you can pause the video and read. This would be a primary source from De las Casas. Pope's rebellion was led by a man named Pope. Here's a statue of him in present-day New Mexico. Those of you who are in my face-to-face class, you should be able to answer which Native American group this is after we present our projects. For everyone else, this was the Pueblo tribe. This was the first instance of Native Americans successfully revolting against the Spanish. So everywhere that the Spanish had landed so far, they were able to colonize and subdue the natives. The Pueblos in 1680 fought back and won. So the Spanish did leave their area, leave them to be. However, they will eventually come back and they will forcefully take land, but they do not threaten Pueblo culture. They stop trying to forcefully convert them and to stamp out their culture. The Black Legend was the idea that the Spanish brought nothing but bad to the New World. Though this section of video has been mostly focused on the bad, right? The encomienda system, enslaving the natives. We can see that bad was brought. The Black Legend was propaganda. So in order to further an agenda by other European powers, they told these stories about how horrible the Spanish were in order to make their colonies look better. So this was part of competition between European world powers to be better. So while the Spanish did bring disease, slavery, and forced conversion of native populations, if we look over here to the video, right, here we can see a man feeding an infant to a dog. We can see someone strung up by the neck. All of these bad things were made to sound worse than they were. So though the Black Legend is based in truth, the accounts were exaggerated in order to make the Spanish sound worse. Our last slide for Unit 1 is about the Spanish Armada. If you're not familiar with the term Armada, that means a fleet of ships. So at this time, in 1588, Spain was considered to have the greatest navy. The Spanish Armada was considered a very powerful fleet that could not be defeated. So the Spanish had this really smart idea to try and invade England. So once again, these are European world powers competing to be the most powerful. Whenever they try to invade England, it goes very badly. The Spanish Armada is defeated by England, which led to England developing the most powerful navy and allowed them to begin colonization in the New World. And we know that the United States of America was born out of English settlement along the East Coast. So this is a major turning point in world history, because this is what allows the English colonies to be formed once the Spanish Armada was defeated and they no longer had basically a monopoly on colonizing the New World. So this is where we'll pick up in Unit 2 when the English begin settling and colonizing in the New World.